it's something else, that's for sure. It's the biggest stage for rugby.
It's an absolutely amazing feeling just to run out in the field in all the World Cups.
The atmosphere around a World Cup, I think it'll just be a totally different level.
There's not really a better feeling. You're representing your country on one of the biggest sporting stages in the world.
Playing in New Zealand for the World Cup is just going to be amazing.
It's just pride all the way.
And wearing the maple leaf on your chest, it's indescribable.
In North America, they have no peers, but this is not North America. This ain't New Brunswick or New York. This is New Zealand. This is the Rugby World Cup. Tonight, can Canada collect maximum points from their opening game against the tough tackling Tongans? Hello, Nigel Reid alongside Gareth Rees and Brian Stanton. Gentlemen, after 4 years of hard toil, the moment is finally at hand.
Well, this Canadian team left these shores over a month ago, and they're ready to play. They've been in Australia preparing. They're a very, very proud bunch. All the talking's done, Brian, and now it's just time for action. This is a great first fixture for them, Tonga. It's one of the games they've targeted to win.
And I think they like their schedule, the fact they've been acclimatized, they've been in New Zealand, they've been watching some games, checking out their pool, but they're chomping at the bit. It's kickoff time. The moment is now.
It's go time.
Talking of that pool, let's have a look as far as Canada is concerned. Pool A is the group in which they need to negotiate a modicum of success. New Zealand, All Blacks, the host country, and France, always the bridesmaid at the Rugby World Cup, already up and running with victories and bonus points as well. Japan and Tonga, two of the opponents that Canada will target to win, and they will do so with this starting lineup for Canada tonight. Brian, is this as strong a lineup as Kieran Crowley can field for this opening game?
I think it is. I like the balance. I like the big mobile pack. He has some danger men in there with Phil McKenzie on the wing. The halfbacks, Fairhurst and Andrew Munro, have to have a big game. And I think James Pritchard kicking, his goal kicking, will be the key today. A lot of the sharpshooters in this tournament have struggled with their goal kicking. Pritchard has to have a big game.
It's going to be a rough, tough battle, Gareth, but tell me about one of the key players for Canada, DTH Van der Merwe. Why is he so important?
Well, he can jump on loose ball, as we see him do here against the Americans this summer. He's a danger man. He's great in the open field, fantastic pace to finish. He's playing his professional rugby for the Glasgow Warriors, and he is a pure finisher. So if Canada can get some quality ball to him, he will score tries.
Canada against Tonga is a feature which has Canada leading by 3-2 head-to-head. More about that in a moment. But it's not just in the backs, it's the forwards, that tough battle up front where Canada has to match Tonga.
Exactly, and there's no point. DTH won't be able to get the ball, won't be able to do anything if the forwards don't do the graft. Chauncey O'Toole has had a big summer for Canada. He's the find of the summer. As you see there, he needs to carry the ball. He needs to attract the attention of the Tongan forwards. Jamie Cudmore, also a huge physical presence. He brings experience from playing in France, and he'll be a leader. The other, especially some of these nervous younger forwards, they'll be looking to him to really step up and knock a few of the Tongans over.
Yeah, all-time head-to-head, there have been 5 internationals between Canada and Tonga. Canada leads it by 3-2, including 2 games at the World Cup. So I wonder, Brian, what Canada should expect from this game going, and what are the keys for Canada to win this game?
Well, you've been talking about the Tonga scrummage. They have big forwards, professional forwards. Canada is going to have to match that. They also have to minimize their mistakes. Nigel, when they played the U.S. in August, although they won both games, they made too many errors. They'll be punished for those errors tonight. They have to minimize those. And conversely, I think they have to punish the Tongans, who can be undisciplined, for their errors with goal kicks.
And the interesting thing about Tonga, Gareth, going into this game is that they've made wholesale changes from the team that lost to New Zealand. 11 in all going into their second match of the tournament. How do you read that?
Well, they had a very good first performance. You saw there, losing by 30 points, but their performance was excellent. I think, and I wrote on our blog, and we're getting lots of attention, Nigel, that's a bit of an insult to Canada to change 11 players. Regardless of what it is, it's not a team that has played together. So for the Tongans, you know, their scrum went very, very well. You see how stable they are here. It gives them a great platform to run from. Behind the scrum, they weren't particularly exciting, but there's a few changes, and you see the power of their running there. They can knock the defenders over.
That said, Brian, in terms of the Tongan approach to this particular tournament, they lost that opening game to New Zealand. They have made these changes. Gareth suggests it's disrespectful, but the Tongans haven't changed all this team just on a whim. There must be reason behind why the Tongan coach has made these changes.
Well, there's scheduling issues too. A 4-game turnaround. They do respect Canada. Canada does have the edge in the series, 3-2. But with the scheduling in the World Cup, you're playing sometimes 7 days apart, sometimes 4 days apart. The Tongans have had a quick turnaround, and they've had to make these changes, as they will as the tournament goes on.
Canada getting set for their opening game, their opening Pool A game against Tonga. They are coached by this man, Kieran Crowley, a World Cup winner himself in 1987. We'll take a closer look at Coach Canada when we return. Now, Gareth Rees knows a little bit about playing at the Rugby World Cup. He did it on 4 occasions. That's why his name appears on that board. 120 points, Canada's all-time leading scorer. A little bit of history about Canada's participation at the Rugby World Cup goes all the way back to 1987. They have qualified for each and every edition of the Rugby World Cup. But Gareth, looking there at 2007, the one number that strikes me is the 0. 0 wins in 2007. Is the 2011 team better than that?
Well, they're definitely ready to be better. Whether they do that or not, that's what we're about to find out. But that's a bit of a disaster, 2007. First time ever, they didn't get a win. There's a few players that were part of that, and they'll want to rectify their World Cup experience. We also lost some players to the program, so not a great experience in 2007, but this is the time to set that record straight. As we said, Tonga, one of the games they're looking to get in the win column.
And the man charged with improving Canada's fortunes is their New Zealand-born coach, Kieran Crowley, going home but on a mission for a foreign country.
In 2008, Kieran Crowley was hired by Rugby Canada to promote the sport and improve the national team's world ranking. In 3 years as head coach, he has done just that, vaulting the club to 14th overall, raising hopes of a quarter-final berth in this year's World Cup.
I think we're making a lot of progress here in Canada. One of the big things as a coach is I think you've got to leave a organisation better than when you first got there, and you know, hopefully we're making progress in that area.
Coach Crowley, I would say, is one of the best coaches I've ever had. He just has so much insight to the game, and every person on this team actually respects him. He's just brings an extra level to what we're trying to achieve here.
Since his arrival, Crowley has improved the team's ball mobility and instituted a new educational approach to the game.
There's times when you got to pay attention to the specifics. You know, from set plays and things like that. So you got to get your skill level right and be accurate in your skill.
He lives in the current, and he realized that as a coach, his focus is going to be on these players. He's a great analyzer of the game, and I've learned a bit around that. And his focus on the small details has been a pretty big thing for me.
Crowley preaches accountability with his players, holding them responsible for their own actions on the field, a philosophy that has been widely accepted by the team.
A guy that really works well with individual players. He knows how to deal with each guy differently, and he knows how to get the best out of you.
We've talked a lot about personal responsibility. So you've got to do everything in your own power to make the team better, and that's something that Kieran pushes quite a bit.
Like a player's coach, I guess you could say. He's really fair. Just know what you're going to get with him.
Crowley is no stranger to the world stage. He played in 19 test matches as a fullback with the New Zealand national squad, helping his native country win the World Cup on home soil in 1987. When Canada and New Zealand square off on October 2nd, Crowley will surely be singing the Canadian anthem.
No, I think I'll still sing the Canadian national anthem. Well, I know I will. It's a professional world. I mean, you look at any sport. It's, you know, I'm coaching Canada, and to me, Canada's my team, and I'll certainly be 100% in everything with them.
A no-nonsense operator, that's Kieran Crowley, the man in charge of Canada at the 2011 Rugby World Cup. Brian, how has he improved this team since he took charge 3 years ago?
I think he's changed the entire culture in the national men's program. I think there's a quiet confidence in the team. Kieran Crowley is a quiet leader. He's not a rah-rah guy, but the players respect him. They're ready to go.
Yeah. Well, I think when Brian and I played for the national team, there was accountability, and he's brought that back. There's no excuses, and he's brought back the real Canadian values. That said, he's got to get a win here. He's a professional coach.
We are counting down to kick-off in Whangarei between Canada and Tonga. "15 minutes away from kick-off in Whangarei on the North Island, 15 minutes away from the biggest game of your life. What's going through your head?
Well, hopefully you're really focused. You're in your routine. You've been preparing for this moment for years, literally. If you're starting to think about the crowd and all the work you've put in, then you're in trouble.
It's all or nothing now as far as Canada is concerned as they prepare to play Tonga in their opening Pool A game at the Rugby World Cup. And the whole of the country is looking ahead to this particular country, the beautiful North Island of New Zealand, where sandboarding is a way of life. It's early spring there, but it's going to be a rough, tough battle when Canada and Tonga get going in just a few minutes' time.
Nigel, I know all over the country there's clubs, Brian, and pubs with people supporting. That is one of the things your tendency is to think back to that. All these people that have helped you get to this big stage, they're on the big field here in Whangarei at Northland. And, you know, you've really got to manage those emotions because you're really wound up, and this is what it's all about.
And I think at this point, the players just want to get at it, Gareth. They've been waiting for this. Some of these boys, 4, 5, 6 years for their chance, and they just want the ball to be kicked off, make the first tackle, get a sweat going, and get right at it. It's been a long wait for this moment.
Yeah, that first tackle can often be really key. It just gets your head into it. You know you're in a fixture, and you're back to doing what you do well. And there'll be lots of Tongan support here. I mean, there's a huge Tongan population in New Zealand, and there'll be lots of support for the other team in red.
The Tongan bus arrivals just alighting the vehicle as they make their way into the stadium. You've been through all this before. As you walk through the tunnel, you get off the bus. What's going through your head? How did you cope with this particular expectation?
Well, I didn't have the headsets in for one, but that is most of the guys have them now. It's a common thing. Just helps them to distract. But you do have a routine. You've played many test matches. The important thing is to make sure that you're not, doing anything out of your routine because you're at a World Cup.
The Tongan lineup, as we've mentioned already previously in the show, 11 changes from the team defeated by the All Blacks. But Brian, a spirited second half performance by the Tongans. Are you surprised that they've made so many alterations?
Well, you got to remember that All Black game, the Tongans were 65-point underdogs, and they played really well. But as I said, I think from a management standpoint, this is a 4-day turnaround. They also have to think ahead. They want to beat Japan. They have another fixture against France. The third place finisher in this pool gets an automatic berth in the 2015 World Cup. So they're trying to manage things as they go throughout the tournament. I'm not so sure it's disrespect to Canada, but I can tell you this. The 15 they put on the field, they will be aggressive, they will be abrasive, and they will make their tackles.
Yeah, and you see the final there. Morath, who was at 10 in the last game against the All Blacks, has gone back to 15, but significantly, the scrum half who was playing, that's Taniela Moa, has gone in to 10. So he was an excellent performer in that first game. So he'll be running the show from 10. So I wonder if maybe the Tongans might throw the ball a little bit wider than we saw in that first game.
Is that going to make it more difficult for Canada?
I think so, because they have more threats. I mean, I would be surprised if they don't come early on with the big forwards, the scrummaging platform, and use that back row that we just saw to as battering rams, and to find out whether the Canadians are going to stand up and make the tackles or not.
Well, Canada represented in good numbers as well, as we see the Tongans going through their warm-up paces at Northland Event Centre. It used to be known as Okara Park, and there, well, there are Canadian fans in good numbers as well, there to support their team. And of course, here comes the bus and the guys. Well, there you are. There's Kleberg. You can't miss him. The manly beard.